While we have eagerly turned the calendar to the promise of a new year, the long shadow of COVID-19 continues to loom. We bring you the latest news on vaccine rollouts, business restrictions, and rising counts here in Arlington. Fraudsters, as they always do, seek to take advantage of the vaccine rollout. We talked to our police chief and the Council on Aging, both of them reluctant experts on the subject, and a welcome dose of normality as the Arlington High School girls and boys take to the court and the ice. That and more on this edition of ACMi News.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Hello Arlington and welcome to ACMi News. I'm Paul Werlin here in the studio for our first newscast of 2021. So let's get right to it. With a combination of intense interest and incomplete information attending the rollout of COVID vaccines, it's no surprise that con artists are busy devising ways to defraud susceptible members of the public. News correspondent In-Young Kim warns that this is not the way you want to be pricked when it comes to the vaccine.
It is very good news that COVID-19 vaccines began to be distributed in December. The bad news is that the scammers are using this exciting news to engage in fraud. According to the Arlington Police Department, fraud schemes related to COVID-19 vaccines have emerged. Scammers are requesting money or personally identifiable information in exchange for getting vaccines. Arlington's Chief of Police, Julie Flaherty, says various types of scams related to vaccines are happening nationwide.
We've been very fortunate in Arlington that we haven't seen any COVID-19 vaccine-related scams. We've seen other scams, of course, but here in Arlington, we haven't had anyone report that they have been the victim of a COVID-19 vaccine. But we want to make sure that the residents in Arlington know that this is happening and that there are people out there taking advantage of our most vulnerable population, including our seniors. We see different types of scams related to the COVID-19 vaccine, what they're seeing statewide, attempting to get money from people in exchange for having early access to the vaccine. I would suggest that if somebody contacted you and offered access to the vaccine, that they contact their primary care physician, or they could go to the mass.gov website.
Christine Shaw, Executive Director of Arlington's Council on Aging, also warns the public not to fall for phone calls, text messages, or emails that ask you to prepay for available COVID-19 vaccines.
It's definitely a scam if you get that text, email, or phone call. There will be no pharmacies calling you to tell you that vaccine is available and you can prepay for your dose. As what we've been told is that the vaccine is going to be free of charge to people, so you should not have to pay for it. So that's a red flag right there if there's ever someone trying to get you to pay for a vaccine or pay for earlier access to the vaccine.
Shaw also talks about grandparent scams, which target seniors by pretending to be younger relatives.
In this case, most recently, they've been saying they're in need of money so they can receive a COVID vaccination or a COVID test. And they ask for a credit card over the phone so that the grandchild could get the test done.
Lastly, she shares tips about how to avoid fraud schemes related to COVID-19 vaccines.
Just being aware that these exist, and it's very common for people of all ages to fall for them. It's not something that really is obviously a scam. No one will ask you for any of your personal information ever over the phone, not your social security numbers, not your credit card numbers, and especially related to COVID and the COVID vaccine.
Remember, don't share any personal information, and if you encounter any suspicious activity, call the police right away. Happy, safe New Year! For ACMi News, I'm In-Young Kim.
Thank you, In-Young. Let's move from efforts to separate you from your money to one that seeks to put more cash into the pockets of local businesses. Applications are open for a new round of funding intended to support the resiliency of small businesses in town. Planning Department Director Jennifer Raitt explains.
And so for that program, we set aside $200,000 to provide grants of up to $10,000, which are meant to be working capital grants, as well as technical assistance, or both, to small businesses that have 20 or fewer employees, which includes the owner, who are full-time equivalent employees, who can demonstrate that they've got a loss of income as a result of COVID-19. They must be a for-profit business, have been in operation for at least a year. We're looking to fund brick and mortar businesses, and of course, not businesses that we funded in the past. You can't double up. So the funds are actually available right now, and we have the application up online at COVID-19 Assistance, which is basically just arlingtonma.gov/COVID-19 Assistance. And when you go to the website, you can find the fillable form. You can download that form and print it out and mail it, or you can submit it online through an email. It's due by January 15th at noon. And the funding, we believe, will be awarded starting on February 1st through the end of the year. And we say that because it's basically a rolling application. We're going to be reviewing materials. And then depending upon how many applicants we have, we might continue to solicit applications throughout the course of the year. We also offer translation, interpretation assistance, or any other reasonable accommodations if they're needed. So I'm really excited about the program, really just because it's great that Arlington has access to these funds. And I think that also there's a number of businesses in our community that really could use this support. I realize it's small, but in one way, because it's only up to $10,000. But I think one key part of this resiliency program is meant to be for the long term, which is the provision of technical assistance. And depending upon how many businesses are interested in utilizing this, I think it could be an avenue to provide some long-term resiliency and support to the community.
As we mentioned earlier, there is intense interest around the world in the distribution of COVID vaccines, and Arlington is no exception. To those anxious to know when they might expect to get the vaccine, the watchword from our local Board of Health is patience, as Director Christine Bongiorno describes.
Yes, so Arlington will be rolling out vaccines to first responders next week, the week of January 11th. The Department of Public Health has given access to vaccines to local boards of health across the Commonwealth. The plan was for communities to come together to vaccinate groups of 200 or more first responders in their community. So the first responders include fire, police, and EMS. And those are individuals that are going into homes on emergency medical calls. And that's why they're included in phase 1. There are 3 phases that the state has posted for vaccine preference. Basically, people that are in different categories may be exposed at higher rates or may have more complications than others. So there's definitely sort of there's a tiered approach. Within each phase, we're in phase 1 right now, and within phase 1, there are even tiers within that. And so right now we're in the first responder tier. And so across the state over the next week, we will have all of our first responders vaccinated, and then we'll move into the next phase. Right now, we have not been guaranteed vaccine at the local level. We're unsure, and we're working with the state to determine where and how that vaccine will be rolled out to the next category of individuals. So we're hopeful that local public health will continue to be involved in the vaccine planning. There are conversations happening with DPH and with the state on those efforts. So I know we're getting a lot of phone calls from people that may fall into various categories within future phases, such as phase 2 or 3. And what we've been telling people is really that they need to hold tight. We will notify the community once they're eligible. So right now it's getting through those closed groups. So it's a closed emergency dispensing site. So the first responders will be invited. They'll have appointments. The next category may be home health aides. They'll be invited. Dentists and other physicians may be invited. So as of right now, it's just groups that are being invited in. And then, in phase 2, it'll be, a segment of the population, and they'll be invited, and we'll go to where they are if and when the state does provide vaccine to the local health department. But as of right now, there's no list to get on. There's there's no date set there. We don't even have an idea really when the vaccine will be available for those other categories. So it's important that people, like I said, hold tight. We will be in touch once vaccines available and once we have clinics posted. Here in Arlington, we've got a lot of great experience getting vaccine into our population. We have been doing vaccination clinics with flu for as long as I've been here. I think my first clinic, when I first started in public health, we did 2,000 people on a Saturday morning. We have the capacity here in Arlington. We are a solid department with a lot of great residents that volunteer and a great medical reserve corps. We're ready to go. We're ready here at Arlington. And once it's available, we will be going to and inviting in the people that are eligible.
Renovations to the Arlington DPW building and yard began on January 4th, which led to a location change for their base of operations. Starting with their recycling center on Saturday, January 9th, most recycling drop-off operations and waste reduction community events will take place at their 33 Ryder Street location, according to the town page. All visitors are required to have an appointment to visit, which can be made on the recycling center's webpage. The dates for upcoming recycling centers are February 6th and March 13th. Should weather prohibit an event from taking place, the town will announce that by 4 p.m. on the day before the scheduled event. The DPW renovation is expected to take 2 years to complete. Another change for Arlington residents to be aware of is the new traffic signal equipment located on Lake Street at the Minuteman Bikeway intersection. The new equipment comes with a camera detection feature, so it won't be necessary for cyclists to push the button. Installed in December, the new traffic signals provide greater safety and convenience for bikers and pedestrians alike. The town reminds pedestrians to cross Lake Street within the markings and for cyclists to use the green path. We are still processing the astonishing scenes from Washington, D.C. this week as supporters of the president move from a rally protesting the election to the United States Capitol building, breaching the barricades and causing Congress members to seek shelter in an unprecedented assault on a national landmark. Town manager Adam Chapterland shared his own reaction with ACMi's James Milan.
I think to lead without getting overly partisan or political, that it's upsetting as an American to see a group of insurrectionists storm the Capitol at the direction of the current president of the United States, right? It's nothing I don't think either you or I have seen in our lifetime, and I'm not sure that it's actually happened in the history of this country. So, it's a very upsetting day. And I have said to my friends, it's the darkest day in American history that I've lived through. Probably are darker days in American history, but not that I've seen. But moving beyond that, especially given my role, I start to think about things very practically. And the matter yesterday that I just can't stop thinking about is the immense failure of the Capitol Police to prevent what happened yesterday from happening. And there was either or both, a major failing in both planning and implementation. How they could not have been ready for that to happen is unfathomable to me. I think I can say without hyperbole, I knew this was going to happen 4 years ago. And we all certainly knew this was going to happen 2 weeks ago, and a week ago, and 2 days ago. We knew this or something like this was going to happen. And to not have both forces on hand and on standby ready to quell this disturbance and this insurrection is just inexcusable. So there's either that planning failing, or the fact that those officers who were there in some instances seemed to aid and abet the insurrection, and that's incredibly upsetting. So, on Twitter, which I guess is sort of a cross between my own personal and professional views, I've been, it's a little outlet that I have. I've been saying, there needs to be an immediate investigation launched by the Capitol Police Board and both the House and Senate Appropriations Committee, which are vested with oversight of the Capitol Police, into what happened. And they need to be ready to prevent it from happening again. I would imagine that the people who did what they did yesterday are only emboldened by how easily they were able to breach the Capitol. And I don't mean to be catastrophize this, but I could imagine they'll try to do it again. And the Capitol Police and whatever other forces are necessary need to be ready to quell it. I'm not suggesting mass uses of force, but such an insurrection needs to be stopped. more locally, I can imagine some people are thinking about what's the town of Arlington and the Arlington Police Department doing to make sure that Arlington's safe should unrest like that spread throughout the country. And I can say that I've already spoken to the chief of police. I can't speak for her, but I know she shares many of the concerns I just expressed about what happened yesterday. And she's already beginning to think about contingency planning for how we would keep Arlingtonians safe if unrest of the nature we saw yesterday came to Arlington. So I guess to try to wrap it up, an incredibly disturbing day. I hope it is the final convulsions of something and not new life being breathed into something far worse. But as you started, I'll try to take more hope out of the broader picture of the nation, and that we perhaps can be coming together on a better path. But hard to be solely optimistic after what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, well, within the first 24 hours after those events, there are some signs, some evidence that hopefully your idea about this being final convulsions is the case in terms of the number of voices across the political spectrum that have condemned what happened and the way that it happened, and frankly, President Trump's role in that. So hopefully that may be an encouraging sign in that way. I also just wanted to note, as you so eloquently described the failings of the Capitol Police Force yesterday, the fact that voices of people and populations of color have been raised to point out that a different makeup of the force that assaulted the Capitol, in other words, a more diverse group, probably would never have breached so easily.
Absolutely, absolutely true.
There is a lot going on here at ACMi amidst the number of pandemic-based changes we have made to our operations. ACMi senior news producer Anim Osmani is here to update us on the action and the changes.
Thank you, Paul. As you said, there is a lot going on, so let's start with a look ahead of what to expect on our channels. On Friday, January 8th, ACMi is assisting on a fundraising event with St. John's Coffee House Concerts to fundraise for the Arlington Eats Food Pantry and to support local musicians who have been affected by the pandemic. The event, known as Dish Up Concert for Arlington Eats, was organized by one of ACMi's most prolific producers, Charlotte Pierce. The concert will feature Coffee House performing alum Akili Jamal Haynes, along with musical alchemist Val Ginty. The Friday evening event will be live on our public channel at 7:30 p.m. Stay tuned for future replays. Here's another program coming your way. ACMi will also be assisting the Robbins Library to stream Composer, a virtual pre-recorded program available on Facebook Live, featuring female composers such as Eva Bitova, Missy Mazzoli, and Caroline Shaw, just to name a few. The event will be released on Sunday, January 10th on the Robbins Library Facebook page, and will then be available to view on our public channel as well. ACMi sports will be in full swing as the high school sports winter season is among us. All varsity basketball and hockey games, both boys and girls, will be live on the Education channel and can also be streamed on the ACMi Sports social media pages. ACMi announced the annual A-Town Teen Film Festival will indeed be taking place this year, virtually. Submissions are due on April 30th to Kevin Wetmore at kevin@acmi.tv. For contest details and rules, please visit our website. Now shifting gears to tell you about how ACMi took a lot of drastic and innovative steps to stay in operation and continue to work with community members to deliver you content amidst the abrupt arrival of COVID-19 and other challenges. Here's Communications Manager James Milan to walk us through.
Yeah, so in March, like the whole rest of the world, ACMi shut down and shut its doors very suddenly. And it was a particular disappointment for us at that moment, although of course, like everybody else, we expected it to be temporary. But it was disappointing because we were busy You know, we were having a very good year up to that point at all of the things that we do well. Like everybody else, I think we kind of wandered around saying, how are we going to move into a virtual world with all of what we're doing? And step by step, that's indeed what happened over the course of the next months after that. Particularly, we stepped up our work with town agencies and town officials to make sure that it was a fairly seamless transition to making the meetings vital meetings, especially as COVID hit and we had to figure out what our response was going to be, and people were very much in need of current information, up to the minute information about what was going on. Eventually, we were able to then make our equipment and our facilities available, admittedly in a limited way, as is still the case, but nonetheless available so that people could train on the equipment, again, observing very strict protocols. And also we were able to come back here into the studio and film our newscast once a week and get some other things going that felt like business as usual. We're proud, really proud with how well we have been able to sustain the core parts of our own mission throughout the last 9 months or more. And we expect and we are ready to be able to do it with these same modifications, to continue to do so for as long as we need to into 2021.
The move to cloud-based services has certainly been an asset to ACMi's virtual operations, allowing staff and community members to work together from their homes. Production manager Katie Chang tells us about this technology and the options we have available to ACMi members creating community programming.
One of the programs we've been using pretty successfully is a browser-based program called StreamYard. So it kind of looks similar to Zoom, where guests and users log in and the program accesses your webcam and mic. But the difference from Zoom is that StreamYard is really built for an audience and for streaming. So you have the ability to kind of change cameras, add graphics, and make it kind of look like a TV production just by using the platform. And then the other great feature that's been really helpful is that it streams directly to Facebook and YouTube and to our TV channels. So it's been really helpful to just help a lot of people and organizations get content out. When we're training our members and other people in the community on platforms like StreamYard and Zoom, a lot of times it might sound basic, but we're kind of teaching people how to frame themselves in the camera, making sure that their internet connection is stable, that they're kind of set to go with their background and their environment so that they present themselves really well on camera, and the quality is the best it can be, and also making sure that they're well lit and that the sound is really good. So that's kind of like the basic foundation that we start off with people. Kind of the next level is to show and teach people how to, like add photos and videos to their recordings and do like base level editing from home. So to receive training, you can contact me or someone at ACMi, and we'll set you up with a training kind of one-on-one on Zoom or whatever platform it is. And we just sort of talk you through the process.
Another change you may have heard of is a closing of ACMi's satellite facility, Studio B. The property at Mass Ave is being redeveloped, displacing the production space. Fortunately, Arlington High School has provided us a temporary home. Studio and Operations Manager Jeff Monroe gives us a quick update about the progress of the Studio B transition.
So we are in the process of building a control room and an edit room space that will allow us to kind of have separate spaces for studio, control room, and edits. And that's coming along really well. We have an electrician going in just to get some outlets, and then we should be good to go. So although it was a short-term location for us, we're hoping that we could at least get some students in there as soon as the shutdown is open and we have some space. So we're going to be putting some equipment in there, getting it suited up for production, and hopefully have it done by mid school year. It's a great location. We're very happy that the folks at the high school are supporting ACMi and supporting the efforts that we have been doing with the students, and we're just so glad that the students will be able to get the resources right there in their school.
If you wish to become a member or inquire more about resources and services, email info@acmi.tv for more information. Paul, back to you.
Thanks, Aneem. We'll close today's newscast as we usually do with an update on sports and other events and activities at the high school. We'll send it over to Jasper Zelmer, making her Ponderscope debut today. Take it away, Jasper.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has recently announced that the class of 2021 will be the only grade to take the math and ELA MCAS this year. All other MCAS testing has also been postponed until this spring. Students who are not a part of the class of 2021 will not be taking the MCAS testing this year. The Anti-Racism Working Group has come up with a project that aims to celebrate community diversity. All artists are called to submit their original designs, which may be chosen to become part of one of the multiple murals that will be displayed at AHS. Use the form in the description to submit a picture of your design, an artist statement, and a proposed title to enter. Additionally, please be sure to check out the Anti-Racism Working Group's January newsletter, which can also be found in the description below. ACMi will be hosting their annual Arlington Film Festival virtually this year. If you're interested, you can submit a short film for a prize. Your films must be submitted by April 30th to be included in the festival. To submit your film or ask any questions, contact Kevin Wetmore at kevin@acmi.tv. For more information, please visit acmi.tv.atown. The film festival event will be live streamed on May 20th. Make sure to purchase a 2021 yearbook if you haven't already. All books must be ordered by March 1st from the link in the description below. Also, there are about 30 copies of last year's yearbook left over. If you would like a 2020 yearbook, or if you have any questions, please email Ms. Donahue at adonahue@arlington.k12.ma.us. I'm Jasper Zelmer, and that's all for this week's Ponderscope.
How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to yet another edition of the ACMi Sports Update. The winter season has finally begun and we have a lot to talk about. But before we dive into it, as we all know, spectators are not allowed at games due to COVID-19 protocols. But you can still check out the games live. So make sure to go subscribe to ACMi Sports on YouTube and follow ACMi Sports on Instagram for all the latest updates on when we'll be going live. Now, with that being said, let's look back on the first week of games in the winter season. We'll kick it off at Eddie Burns Arena, where the boys varsity hockey squad, coming off last year's Coast State champions, took on the Woburn Tanners at home. After a back-and-forth game, the Tanners netted an empty netter with 15 seconds left to seal the deal, as the Spy Ponders lost by a score of 4-2. Then they moved out to Woburn on Wednesday, where they had another tough game, losing 5-2. We'll stay on the ice as the girls' hockey squad traveled to Woburn for their first season opener. The two teams battled back and forth, with a total of 3 lead changes throughout the game. But it ended in a stalemate, as the Ponders tied the Tanners 2-2. When coming back home on Wednesday, the girls had another back-and-forth battle with the Tanners. But this time, they were able to edge them out with some incredible play at the end of the game, beating the Tanners 4-2.
Drops it off to Kropelka, who craps into the middle. She scores! Maddie Kropelka, backhander after crossing into the middle, puts the Spy Ponders up 3-2.
Now we move to the court, where the boys varsity basketball squad took on Woburn at home, edging out the Tanners in a close game, winning 55-50.
Paoletti Newton from the corner, no good. Ho with the offensive rebound, puts back up, no. Gets another offensive rebound, puts it up again. And the hard work by Dennis Ho pays off with a bucket.
While the boys were at home, the girls were in Woburn taking on the Tanners, and were able to come out with the win, beating the Tanners by a score of 43-34. Now, with the first week of the winter season covered, let's look ahead to next week's matchups. Girls basketball debuts at home this Saturday at 12 p.m. versus Woburn, and boys basketball travels to Woburn on Saturday to play the Tanners at 12. Girls hockey is at home on Wednesday at 6 p.m. for a big game against Lexington, while the boys are on the road next Saturday the 16th to take on the Lexington Minutemen at 3:30 p.m. And that's all we've got for you this week. Make sure to head over to ACMi Sports on YouTube and subscribe to check out all the games live. From ACMi Sports, my name is Nick Antonakis.
That'll do it for us for this week's newscast. Thank you for tuning in. For the cast and crew of ACMi News, I'm Paul Werlin, and we will see you next week. Stay safe.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMI Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.